In the dimly lit bedrooms of aspiring guitarists, one chord reigns supreme. One chord reigns supreme. Packed with raw intensity, it's the driving force behind Metallica's thunderous riffs, shaping anthems like Fade to Black and Enter Sandman. This simple yet powerful shape became the battle cry of heavy metal, allowing even beginners to sound massive. Don't be fooled though. Beneath its brutal simplicity lies a magical world of theory. This is Shred, and today we're going to explore the most fascinating topic in all of music theory: chords. Come with me as I unravel the Metallica chord, aka the power chord. But that's just the beginning. The 4 types of triads, making chords from scales, and the cage system are all on the agenda. Get my free scale Bible with the link below. It just costs your soul. Now I want to welcome you to Planet Shred. Here we are in Guitar Pro, and I want to detail exactly what's going on in this Metallica chord. We begin with the root, the foundation of all things, and from there we're going to ascend to an interval of stability, and that is the perfect 5th on the 9th fret here. Now we finish off the power chord with a repetition of the root an octave up. So these 3 tones right here form just the foundation and the basis of all heavy metal music, and for that matter, rock guitar. So we got an E, a B, and an E. Now, a great exercise you can actually use is to ascend through the diatonic scale with power chord shapes. This is one of the best things you can do for your songwriting. So what I'm going to do is start actually with an open E power chord, and that's going to be the root E, then we have the 5th, followed by the root, and we're going to jump up. Actually, let's roll with half notes here, give us a little bit more space. From there, we're going to ascend up to the 2nd degree in the E Aeolian mode, and you may notice I have a drone going on in the background. That gives us the C word, and by C word I mean context. It's more about training your ears actually than anything else. Okay, so here we go, F sharp, and that's going to be F sharp, C sharp, and F sharp power chord. So we're going to keep the same intervallic structure, that root, the perfect 5th, followed by an octave. Okay, from there we ascend up to the 3rd degree, and we're going to get a G power chord. So that's going to be G, D, and G. G stands for God damn, I love power chords. All right, from there, we're going to move up to an A power chord. That's going to be A, E, and back to the root A. Are you ready? Here comes the 5th. Love this one. That's B, F sharp, and B, which stands for bitch. Okay, we're almost done with this sequence here. In fact, what you can do to explore your hardwood and get a better sense of the fingerboard is jump on up to the A string, and let's try a couple shapes out there. All right, so we got C, G, and C. Okay, you know what? We got one more bar to finish things off, and we're gonna roll with D, which starts on the 5th fret of the A string. Same shapes, of course. That brings us all the way full circle back to the E power chord on the 7th fret of the A string. Now this exercise, if you're just getting sort of used to power chords, is extremely effective. Check it out. Oh. It really sounds like a song in and of itself right there. You can chug around. Really dig in for that heavy palm muted sound. Sounds mean, right? Okay, now let's hear an example of these power chords in action. Check this out. Here's Papa Het about to throw down some power chords in Fade to Black, the most depressing Metallica song of all time. No one but me. Now back in Guitar Pro, we can see exactly what Master Hetfield is playing here. Let's run the Guitar Pro track, check it out. Okay, great. So we're in the key of E minor here, and you can see we covered this exact shape here on the A string. So this is a great way to kind of get your bearings sliding around these movable patterns. That's one of the most powerful things about the power chord is that you don't have to change the shape as you move it around. I like to kind of take it down an octave for the second lap there and really dig in on the lower shape. So you can vary what you're doing. So check this song out to get your power chords down. It even has a nice little picking section here you can work on. Now once you get that power chord under your fingers, it's time to ascend to the next plane of chordal understanding. And that is to map out the triads that occur within the major scale. And in fact, you know what I'll even do here is tab out the scale for you. So if we started, let's say we're in C major, right? We start on C. Let's do eighth notes here. So we got C, D, E, F, G, A, and of course B. All right, there's our scale. Actually, we could just repeat the root there. Let's type this in. C major scale. Now this is fascinating. Your mind is going to be absolutely blown here. So what you can do to create chords, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but you can actually select every other note of the scale to create triads. And this I couldn't possibly overemphasize when it comes to songwriting. So look at this. We're going to get into the magic of this harmony here. So if we start on the third fret of the A string and construct a triad, there's C major, right? And what that is, you have C, the root, skip the next note, go to the third E, skip the fourth, and hit the fifth G. And that's all chords are. It's just playing every other note from the scale. So we're going to move through each one of the scale degrees within C major and unravel these harmonic mysteries. So moving on to the second degree of the scale, which is D, now we're going to have a minor tonality, and I'll show you why. So if you start on D, the second degree, and then skip, a note, that gives us D and F. F is a minor third instead of a major third, and then we have the fifth A. So D, F, and A. F and A, bro. The saddest of all keys. Let me switch over to a clean sound here. All right, so we have D, F, and A. And actually, the way that I'm voicing these tones isn't in order, right? We have the root, the fifth, and the third. And the reason we're doing that is because it sounds good, I mean, if we play piano voicings, it's a little bit more tricky. We might get into some of that later with the cage system. Spoiler alert. All right, let's move on to the third degree, which is E. Okay, so building a triad off of E, we're going to get a minor, another minor triad. This would be like the Phrygian bass within your major scale. So we got E, we got G, and B. Okay, we're marching right along through these. The fourth degree comes next, and if you guessed this is the Lydian center, you'd be right. So we've got F, A, and C within this one, and this is such a great sound. That F, and put a G in there if you want to sound Lydian. Beautiful. Oh man, it's like a nostalgic, uplifting sort of vibe. All right, moving on to G. And again, for every one of these, I'm literally just thinking about the C major scale and selecting every other note. That's all there is to chords. Okay, G. This is going to be our Mixolydian bass, and you have G, B, and D. Whoops, there we go. Okay, and there's our voicing. Beautiful sort of spread triad sound here. It's just delicious. We got 2 more chords to go. This one's going to be a minor. So we have A minor here. There it is. Gorgeous sound. And the last one throws you for a bit of a loop. This guy is the oddball. It's the odd man out. What we have actually is a diminished triad. And it's actually a great sound. So that's going to be B, D, and F. And then we actually come back full circle again to the roots. There we go. Beautiful. C major. So if I plug in all of the chord symbols here, we can see what we're actually dealing with. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G, and we got A minor, B diminished, back to the root C. Now in the next segment, I'm going to talk about the 4 types of triads. This is an absolute game changer. We're going to be looking at examples from Van Halen, Metallica, of course Lord Bach himself, and also Led Zeppelin. Okay, let's start with the first triad, which is going to be major. And we're going to start on A for this. So if you go to the 7th fret of the D string, and that's going to be our root, A. Now we ascend to the major 3rd, C sharp. That gives us a happy, uplifting tonality. Always pair an emotion with these sounds so that you actually retain the information instead of it just being some numbers online. So from there, we're going to hit the 5th, the interval that sort of ties everything together. Honestly, fuck the 5th. You don't even need it. But it really just, it gives you a little bit of that icing on top of the cake. But the real structure and the foundation is that root and the 3rd. Now let's check out an example from Van Halen here. So there's Van Halen's Jump. It's got all major chords in it. Sounds like this. And here's the notation. You can see we start out on a G, G, B, and D. And there's a few inversions, which we're going to talk about in a future class. But an inversion basically means there's a note other than the root in the bass. From there, we go to an F, back to a G. That's about it. So Van Halen's Jump is really run entirely on the fuel of major chords. Now, once we have our major chord bass, let's get that in here. That's the first type of triad. So major triad, type that in. Whoops, if Shred could actually spell, that would be great. Let's try again there. Triad. Okay, now you can take the bass of a major triad and get something different by altering the 3rd. So if we begin on the roots, A, and we take the 3rd, right? But then let's drop that a half step, and you go from happy and joy and uplifting to doom, gloom, and sadness. Much more my style. Okay, there we go. So we got A, C, and E. So I'm going to drop in the A minor, and this would be our minor triad. And of course, this is something you're going to see in metal music quite a bit. A flawless example of minor chords in action is the beginning of Nothing Else Matters by Metallica. Have a listen to this intro. Now check this out. Nothing Else Matters by Metallica. It uses all the open strings, and it's just a simple arpeggio here. Arpeggio just means playing the notes of a chord separately. Now check this out. We begin with the root here, E, and we're actually in 6/8 time, which is interesting. This is a totally different setup. From there, we're going to ascend up to the G string, our favorite string to finger, right? There it is. And after that, we hit a B and an E, a B and E. Don't be doing no breaking and entering. So we're going to come back down to the B and the G to complete the bar. So that gives us our 6/8 notes to fill up this measure of music. And that's the entire intro. But you'll notice that all the intervals there for the minor triad exist, right? You get the root, there's the third, the fifth, and we're back to the root. Now get ready, because it's about to get weird. Here we go into the dark side of music. And if you're interested in outside sounds or more experimental kinds of like progressive metal and rock, this is for you. So our next triad type is the augmented triad. It begins just normal, you know, just like the major. We got the root, A, then we go up to the major third, C sharp. Now let's drop the E in there, but here's the difference. And this creates an incredibly creepy sound. Sharp that fifth. And you may notice, you know, that what the hell is an E sharp? Well, if you take an E sharp and think about it in terms of enharmonic equivalence, it's really just an F, right? But to see it properly on the staff so that there's third relationships between each interval, we write it out with that E sharp. I know it doesn't make any fucking sense, but that's the way it is. So this is the A augmented. And believe it or not, we do actually see this chord used in popular songs from time to time. Let's have a listen to Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Hell. I mean, heaven. Unfortunately, I can only play negative 69 seconds of that before getting copyright stricken. Now have a look at this shit. So here's Stairway to Heaven, and it begins just innocuously enough with a standard minor triad, right? But hold on to your butts, because we're going for a ride. In this next bar, or actually in this next chord, you see that A flat right there, right? So that gives us this sound. This sound here, right? And in between that chaos lies an A flat augmented chord. We have A flat, C, and E. Now, in context, it's actually quite beautiful. But if you're just kind of like rep that out of nowhere, it's going to be very jarring. So the C word is essential. Context. Listen to the whole thing, right? You have beautiful movement there, and then we head to a D major, and then down to an F major before we getting this G over B back to the A minor. So you actually hear a contrary motion effect happening between the bass and the melody section. Listen to this. If I just play the outer voices, you get Bach would be proud, right? So the top voice is going up the minor scale stepwise, and the lower voice is descending chromatically. Now that is good composition. Now we've come to the last type of triad. And that triad is by far the most diabolical. It's Satan's favorite. It was birthed in the fires of hell. And I'm going to show you exactly how this bitch is built. So we begin with the foundation and the root, A. And it starts out just like a minor chord. So from there, we're going to hit a C. And let's pretend it's just minor initially. So we drop in an E. But here's the difference. Here's where we dive into the satanic realms of the underworld. You flat that fifth degree, and now we have our diminished triads. So altogether, you have A, C, and E flat. Okay, let's look at an example of this chord in action. Now, did you catch it? There's Metallica's #1 hit, Enter Sandman. And in the background there, Papa Hetfield is repping that demonic harmony. Don't believe me? Let's have a look at the tab. Right? But have a look here. So you got the root, another root, E, and then our tonality indicator, the G, or the flat third. And lo and behold, the devil's note makes an appearance, the flat 5B, right there. So if you think about it, if you combine E and G and B flat, what do you get? The devil's chord, E diminished. Now, some people might classify this as a blues scale sort of thing, and that's fine. But within that blues scale lies, I mean, it's still the same thing, still that diminished triad. And in fact, the blues, the whole, lore behind the blues is this Faustian bargain, it's called. So you exchange your soul in return for unlimited musical power. This was Robert Johnson's deal with the devil, to get his blues power. That's just how it works. So if you want to be your best, you're going to have to sell your soul. Now, I did want to look at one more diminished chord example, and it comes from Johann Sebastian Bach's Toccata and Fugue, aka Fugue in D minor. So I'll just play a little version of it here. And here it comes. You ready? And then we resolve. Did you hear it? Right here, C sharp, E, G, B flat, and it keeps going. Whoops, there it is. So the thing about these fully diminished seventh chords, it's a little bit different than the diminished triad, because you have one extra note, but the symmetry stays the same. And by symmetry, I mean we always hold that minor third distance between every tone. You can see it mapped out right here. So I've got a little different voicing that I use down here, but the notes are the same. And you know what? I'll even give you one other voicing you could use, because this one's really practical. Let me get back over to my clean sound. And if I play this shape here, that's a movable pattern that you could take anywhere along the A string. And if you move it up 3 frets at a time, it's the same chord essentially. So I'll show you what I'm doing. We've got the 4th fret, right? And then I'm going up to the 5th fret, and then I'm coming down here. I'm going to flat this note for the B flat. That's the 7th. And then we have the 3rd. So the only difference here between the regular triad and the fully diminished 7th chord, like I said earlier, is we add one extra third. So instead of this, just go one more, and you have the devil's chord. Despite all my rage, I still don't understand Caged. Now, there's a little that's more valuable to your understanding of chords than the Caged system. And the Caged system is just a series of chords in the open position area of the guitar. You have basically you start with C, right? It's an acronym. And then we have A. From there, you go to G, and then E, and finally D. One of my favorite songs that uses the Caged system is Alice in Chains' Nutshell. That song gives me chills every time I hear it. Now you can see how this works in the tab here, and honestly it's a little confusing to look at. Really all you're dealing with is this basic E minor shape, but then you add the 3rd fret of the top 2 strings. So it's a little bit like a G and an E minor combined. So the kind of vibe of the track goes like this. Just sort of a hypnotic sort of cry to the universe. If we look specifically at each shape, there's the E minor, here's the G, and then it goes to that D and the C. So there's really only one chord from the Caged system that's absent here. But good news, I've got another one for you. Oasis's Wonderwall is the butt of countless memes, but it has just a beautiful example of the cage system in action. So Wonderwall, essentially, the chords are like this. Right, so there it is again. You got the same thing as Nutshell. I hate even mentioning those two songs in the same breath, but it is what it is. You got E minor, G, D, and here's the A version, right? And then later in the song, it does actually hit a C in the chorus. For those of you in my live modern guitar mastery class, here is your homework assignment. Write me 30 seconds of original music using all 4 of the different types of triads. Now, this is going to be a fun challenge. Get creative with this and really connect to the inherent emotional quality of each triad. Now, as a supplement to your chord homework, head on over to musictheory.net. And what we're going to do is look at 2 exercises just real quickly here. One is using just notation, right? So if you come down here to chord identification, you can actually quiz yourself by recognizing the notes on the staff. So it's going to give you a series of options. And what you have to do is determine which one is correct. So here I see, you know, this is actually an easy one because if you think about that acronym, every good boy deserves fudge, it's just going right up the lines, right? E, G, B, D, and, well, that's just it. E, G, B, and D, right? It just doesn't have the F part. So this is actually a minor 7th chord. Bang. Okay, they're going to give us another one here. This one's F, G, and C. And you could, you know, try to play those tones on your guitar as well. That's going to be helpful. That would be an F sus2. Let's just do one more. Oh, that's cheating because that's the same one we already did. Let's get a different one here. Okay, this one is A, and then we have a D and E. So if you play that on guitar, boom, you get a suspended 4th. Okay, let's move on to the other quiz I want to show you. So if you come back to the home page, scroll down and find chord ear training. Click on that. Okay, so that triad, now the drill is you have to find the chords by ear. This is a whole nother level, right? So write it, sing it, say it, play it. That's what my theory instructor used to say. We want to hit all those different categories. That one was an augmented triad. Ooh, and that was a devil's triad, diminished. And that actually, you heard there was 4 tones, right, instead of 3. That's the diminished 7th triad. Let's do just a couple more. Okay, another diminished 7. And there's a major triad. So bring out your guitar and play along. This is really going to accelerate your musical growth. I'm really looking forward to hearing your guys' creativity in this assignment, and I want to know down in the comments below, what's your favorite chord?